the ayah we're looking at, وَقَرْنَ فِي بِيُوتِكُنَّ, the concept of, well, isn't it better to be at home? Islam says it is encouraged for both men and women. There is no difference.
Where Islam says it's encouraged for both men and women. Where? Dalil, please. Where's the dalil? قَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ. Kunna, that's the feminine pronoun. You women. It's not you men and women. So where's your dalil for this?
The priority of your spouse and your children and your home is equal to men and women. No one else can be the husband other than him. No one else can be the father other than him.
Look at the conflation. Because the priority could be, like, let's grant her that, okay, the home, the wife and children, that's a priority. You have to take care of them. Let's just say that, put parents and other siblings to the side. Your family, this is your wife and kids. That's your number one priority after Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, fine, but you have to go outside of the home in order to serve your family, because where are you going to make ends meet? How are you going to earn a living to buy the food and pay for your living quarters, for your apartment or for your house, all the costs of living? Like, how are you going to provide if you're in the home? You have to go outside of the home. And that's a responsibility that only men have. Women don't have that responsibility. If women had that responsibility to provide, and Allah said, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنْ, then that would be difficult to reconcile. We have to stay in the home and we have to make ends meet. How can we do that? But this is why Allah didn't tell men to stay in the home. Allah didn't command men to stay in the home like the women. So she's just making stuff up. Just like she was making stuff up with her research about unaliving yourself. She just creates this nonsense. She's doing the same with the Quran and with Islam. I mean, fear Allah, woman.
No one else can be the wife other than you, and no one else can be the mother other than you. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
Which is why the companions of the Prophet ﷺ understood this so well. So you look at someone like Abu Darda, one of the famous companions of the Prophet, and there's this beautiful saying that he says, نِعْمَ سَوْمَعَةُ الرَّجُلِ بَيْتُهُ. The best monastery for a man is his home.
No, this doesn't mean that he should just stay at home. What's a monastery? What's the sanctuary for the man? Yeah, it's his home. That's where he can focus. That's where he can recharge himself. But that doesn't mean he has to stay in his home. Like, there's not the same hijab component regarding modesty for men as there is for women. There's an inequality here between men and women, and she can't cope with that.
It's for men and for women, because the priority, as we showed in the circles, is for men and women.
Oh, the dalil is the circles. The circles is the proof. As we saw in the circles, he needs to stay at home. But the thing, she just said that it's nonsense for women to stay at home. So she wants to take women out of the home and put men in the home. She wants to take women out of the home and say, nonsense. You should stay at home. This is nonsense. But guess what? The priority is for men to stay at home. Like, aren't you just contradicting your whole argument? If the circle of priority for women is also the home, then she should also stay in the home, as you denied in the first part of your talk. This is why people who are confused or they're dishonest, they just contradict themselves constantly. And we saw that with the Yasir Qadi debate as well. Like, the contradictions are just endless.
But that's not how it's always recited, because in the scholars of the narrators of Kufa and Basra, they recite it as وَقِرْنَا فِي بِيُوتِكُنْ وَتَكَسْرَ وَقِرْنَا, which changes the meaning. Not totally, but there is a different meaning. And there it means, and remain dignified and serene in your homes.
Okay, how does this change anything from the point you're trying to make? It's still in your homes. Be dignified in your homes, like according to her translation. It's still in your homes, right? It's not like, oh, qirna actually means leave your homes whenever you want. Qirna means go be a boss babe, be a queen outside the home. That's not what it. So how is this different qira'ah supporting your overarching point?
So there are scholars, even in the recitations of the Quran and the tafsir, that say even for the Prophet's wives, there is a difference in meaning, let alone the rest of us.
There's a difference in meaning, but there's no difference in ruling. The ruling is the same. So this is someone who doesn't even understand fiqh. The ruling is the same. The default for women is, according to the verse, to be in their homes, and according to the sunnah. And then there are these, you have the default, and then you have other cases that are allowed. So the default is to be in your home. And then, as I explained, there are reasons that you can leave the house. An analogy to this is that, what's the default ruling on eating pork? What's the default ruling in Islam? It's haram. It's impermissible. You can't eat swine. Can you ever eat swine? Yes, you can. You can eat swine. There are exceptional circumstances that the Quran mentions. When you're starving, you have no other recourse. You're going to die. It's life and death. And there's only a nice bacon sandwich there. If it's preventing you from death, then pork becomes halal. Or it might even become wajib. You have to eat it to survive. But that doesn't change the default ruling. That doesn't change the default ruling. The trick that these reformists play is that they look at the exceptions, the exceptional circumstances, and they pretend like that's the default. Like, what if I came and told you that, did you know all of these scholars, these cultural Muslims, these cultural and backwards Muslims who say that pork is haram, they don't know what they're talking about. You can eat pork. You can in Islam. Did you know that? Yes. And here, this imam has said it. You can eat pork. So there, I proved it. Look at the concentric circles. It's a proof. So we would say that that person is dishonest. You are presenting an exceptional circumstance or a conditional circumstance and presenting it as if it's the default, as if it's unqualified. To eat pork, there has to be a reason. There has to be a condition. There is a qualification to that permission to eat the pork. The default is that it's haram. Same when it comes for women in the home. The default is that she's at home. And then to leave the home, there are conditions for that. There are qualifications for that. This is the distortion that many of the modernists will make. And it's dishonest. It's low IQ. It shows a lack of intelligence and a lack of character, because you are distorting the tradition.
And so then the scholars of tafsir come and say, you have the very famous Imam Tabari, who says that because of this difference of meaning, and even in the original, I mean to say in the Hafs recitation of the word, whether it's qarna or qirna, they have both said that this means that it is an encouragement but not an obligation. Likewise, Ibn Battal said that this is not an obligation, but an encouragement.
What do you mean obligation? Because all the scholars have said that there are reasons to leave the house. There are reasons to leave the house. Legitimate reasons. So no one says that you're obligated to stay in the house regardless. So what is she proving here? This is the confusion. So they're encouraging. So again, this contradicts her interpretation of the verse earlier, because she said that, no, this only applies to the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's specific for them to stay in the home. Now she's saying that these scholars, like Imam Tabari, he's saying that this verse means it's encouraged to stay in the home, but it's not obligatory. This contradicts what you just said. At the whole beginning of your presentation was to make a big stink that, we have to read the verse in context. And then when we read the context, we realize that qarna fi buyutikun is only for the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not applicable to just women in general. So contradiction after contradiction after contradiction.
You have another, Ibn Hajar. These are all mufassirun, all scholars of tafsir, exegesis of the Quran.
Ibn Hajar?
And he says the same thing, it's not compulsory.
Scholar of hadith.
So where do you get people on the minbar in the khutbahs, because I've heard it in a khutbah, and stay in your homes, right? Stay hidden, it is better. It's better for men and women.
It's better, no. It's not better for men and women. It's better for women. Men need to be modest. They need to observe modesty, haya. And we read about the Sahaba, some of which had very high degrees of haya, like Uthman, radiallahu anhu. He had a very high degree of haya and shyness and modesty. But the requirement for modesty and the modality of modesty is not the same for men and women.